most recently, her prized project is a just released documentary titled The Light and Shadow of Coaching in and Beyond Organizations. We'll know more about this because I'm very curious. Please welcome Tünde Erdös. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your presence with us today.
Thank you very much. So introducing me as wonderful. I'm not sure about that. I would like to leave that aside and just introduce myself as a human being here that is really inspired by learning and growing. And as you can see, all the accolades, forget those. Just be with me today. So I'm based in Austria, and I'm having reinforcement with me, and this is James among you. And we just said today that he's actually a team member on the coaching documentary. James, thank you very, very much for being with me. This is soulish. I like that you are also interested in learning more about presence. And yeah, before we get started, I wanted to contract with you. I wanted to do a piece of contract because presence is a very specific topic that is not presentable. You know, we don't present presence. We experience, we experiment with it. And I don't know what I will feel like experimenting with you, because for me, presence is about emergency and working with emergency. And I do have several ideas what to do and what not, but it all depends also on you guys. And this is much in line with the research findings through my PhD, where we found that presence is not about the coach, not alone, but that it is so much about the relationship, but the relationship in that the coach is always shaped by the client. And you might know that because we are different with different clients. So there's no such thing as a presence, or that I am present always the same way. We cannot be. So there is relationality when it comes to presence. And that's what I would like to connect with, our relationality when it comes to working with you today. So that's why I don't have an agenda, a big one. I have several agendas, what to do with you. So the piece of contracting is about, can we agree to trust? You don't know me, I'm aware of that. But whatever emerges as an intervention or as an experiment or as an exercise, would you allow yourselves to trust me, trust us, that we will work together and we can hold a space for whatever feels discomfortable or uncomfortable or discomforting for learning purposes, for the sake of learning. So that's a piece of contract that I would like to do with you today. If there is somebody that does not want this, I will respect that and just move ahead with a presentational way of dealing with presence. So feel free to just share whichever way. Are you happy with this contract?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Okay. I am.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, well then, okay. Let's do the first experiment then. And that's a bit of a self-reflection on arriving. Let's do a moment of presence. And just a little bit of a moment of presence. And I know that it's very critical to ask people to do stuff, but we have contracted that we will, that I'm allowed to do that with you. So I just invite you to take a deep breath, or close your eyes, or sit comfortably, whichever way, to arrive, to really arrive. And I have a special question to you. Sense into yourself, not think into yourself, not feel into yourself, but sense into yourself. And tell me one way in which you feel alive and vital. Tell me one way in which you feel vital? What is vitality to you in this moment? What is feeling alive this moment? And sense. Sensing means connecting with your 5 sensory capacities. It's not connecting with the brain. It's connecting with feeling touched, smelling, tasting, hearing, seeing. Tell me one way in which you feel vital. What is vitality to you? Take a moment to connect with your sensory capacities, which are lodged in the body. And notice. Just notice. And when you are done, ask yourself again, what is one way in which you feel vital? What is vitality to you? What is being alive for you? I will give you a few more seconds and then ask you to gently come back to connect with each other. Okay. Now, I was doing this moment of presence through vitality, the idea of vitality and being alive, because I was researching presence from the perspective of energy between coach and client. So we were measuring the energy between coach and client over time, over various sessions. So we do not know actually what the conversations were about. We were not interested in the blah, 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 in the talks and the conversations and topics and all that. What we were interested in was motion energy. So basically energy between two people, and to what extent energy was synchronous or asynchronous or even desynchronous. And to what extent did that impact clients' psychological safety, self-regulatory capacities, and then eventually goal attainment. And we were measuring motion energy with the software. We were asking the clients after each session within 24 hours for their self-reports. And we were asking coaches for feedback. So we have 3 different sources of information that we pulled together. Now, all this knowledge that was created is published in Frontiers in Psychology. So I can share the links with you. You can read that stuff if you're interested in the details. I am not going into those details. I just wanted to frame our mind today that what I would like to do or invite you to do with me is connect the dots with energy, body, sensing, spontaneous responsiveness, and presence. Okay? In a very special way. And basically what I would like to then end up with is addressing 4 spheres of presence that we have found are relevant when it comes to working with clients based on the research. Now, I would like to also tell you that I am very much aware that we are just on the cusp of understanding of what presence is. So despite the knowledge that was created and published, I hold the knowledge lightly. So I'm not saying that this is the truth. And I would also like to invite you to hold everything lightly, what we are discussing, and just experience and also challenge me or challenge each other on how it makes sense to you what we are doing. So I'm not married to knowledge. I am not married to scientific findings. I am married to truth. And I don't think that we have understood presence yet, but we are on the cusp of understanding. And I'm very much aware of this. So feel free to challenge, ask questions, or bring in your meaning making as well. Yes, so now I would like to do a breakout room. Jimmy. And what I would like to do is share, actually, because breakout rooms consisting of pairs, like 2 people always together for 10 minutes. And there will be 3 questions that I will ask you to reflect with each other. So, and I will give instructions how to do that. And I will show the slide with the 3 questions as well, so that you can take a screenshot, or I don't know, like a picture of it. But basically the idea is that each person has space to reflect the 3 questions as some stimuli. So not to debate it for, is it real or not, or true or blah, blah, blah. No, please, just to see those questions as stimuli and how those questions impact your sensory capacities. How you're saying, not what you're thinking about those things, not how you're feeling about those questions. Just when you see those questions and you're asked those questions, how do the questions land, literally land, viscerally land with you on a physical level? And then take space and take time to notice it. Okay, so it's a practice. We are doing it together because the idea is that each of you will ask the other person the 3 questions, so that you hear the question and then you allow the question to land on you through the other person's voice, and you reflect. Just reflect, give back. You are allowed to speak. So the idea is that you speak it out, but it's not supposed to be a dialogue, that you debate it, like kind of like you or coach each other. Just to hear the questions, allow the questions to land on you viscerally, like stimuli, like anything. Like my hat is a stimulus for you. The color that I'm wearing is. The background that I'm having here is a stimulus. So we always have stimuli around us that impact our body, and basically it's through the body that all else happens. Okay, so am I clear with the instructions? Because I'm not having it written down. Like, do you have a question about this or anything for that matter so far?
Is everybody okay? Do we have, oops, here we are. Oh, so are these going to be the questions, Tünde?
Yeah, before so I would like to give another piece of guidance. So why? Because I was saying that everything happens through the body, as far as we know, okay? Today, for now. So first we sense through the body, and sensing happens through the body and not in the brain. Then after we sense, and we only have 5 sensory capacities: seeing, hearing, feeling touched, touching, smelling, and tasting. Anything that happens in you or you notice about yourself is not sensing. So go back to sensing. Okay, always go back to sensing. Check your sensing. Am I really sensing, or already meaning making, perceiving, feeling, thinking, or acting, like saying something? Just connect, go back, because this is really a very difficult exercise. Yeah, even for me, every day is like, am I sensing this, or is it really happening, or am I already jumping to conclusions or meaning making based on something else? So try to keep the sequence of sensing, then perceiving, then feeling, then thinking and acting. And if you catch yourself red-handed, go back to sensing without judging yourself. So that's actually the clarity about the body, because everything starts in the body, and then the brain creates the thoughts and emotions, but it all starts here with us, with the 5 sensory capacities in the body. Now, the 3 questions are these. What do you love about your presence? What do you hate about your presence? And what do you want to be present for? 10 minutes.
Okay.
And 5 minutes each, okay? So that you can take turns.
I'm just writing the questions in here in case anyone forgets. What do you want to be present 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are in the chat, so you should be able to see those when you go into the rooms. I do have all the rooms set up. It looks like by the way everything is. Tünde, do you want to be in a room?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to.
Okay. And all right, I'm going to go ahead and open up all the rooms. If somebody ends up without a person in there, let me know. And I don't know if I can jump in. I think someone's got to stay host. So let's see what happens. But for 10 minutes, okay? 5 minutes on one side, 5 minutes on the other. All right, here we go. Let's see. We need our leader back. Let me look at the gallery.
She's back. She's in the center saying she's back.
Ah, she's back. There she is.
I love your hat, Tünde. I love hats.
Yes, she does. Where's your hat today, Misha?
Not today. I decided to look like,
You have your beautiful hair on.
Yes.
Do I have everybody muted, or can you unmute, Tünde? Tünde, we can't hear you.
She's on mute.
I know. There we go. Yes, you're back.
I wanted to thank you for allowing me to throw you into this space of doing this exercise, or exercise or experiment, or whatever. I'm not stuck with words. So to do this, and I don't want to really debate it a lot, but can you please share with us, with just in one sentence only, one sentence only, what did you notice about the love and hate and the what for of your presence in one sentence? Those who want to share, so we don't, those who like to.
You can raise your hand or write in the chat or just shout out. Apparently it's a quiet group right now. Basking in our presence.
It was a bit difficult to separate, I think, the love, hate, and what you want.
And stop, just hold this. And when you're noticing that it was difficult to separate, what was it that wanted you to separate those things?
My mental being.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could I build on that one? My feelings were the same in 2 of the questions. The feeling was the same, so I didn't try and separate it. But then later on, we thought, oh, why was that? Why was it different? And that was our thinking. So we did have the same feeling. It wasn't until we applied some thought that we tried to differentiate them.
How did you connect those? Because actually they all have something in common. The 3 questions have something in common. And I'm not going to push you into that, okay, second guessing or third guessing. They are our preferences. What we love, what we hate, what we prefer, what we like, what we dislike, whichever word you may use. What we want something for, what we need something for. It's a need, it's a preference, it's a like, and it's what we found is our golden shadow. Because on one hand, it's okay to like and dislike and to prefer and do this and do that. So we all have that, we are human beings, but at the same time, they constitute our golden shadow when it comes to presence. Because when we prefer to have something in a specific way, that binds our energies because we want it this way, we like it this way, we need it this way, or we dislike it this way, we don't want it this way. And not just in coaching, but beyond. So the first thing is noticing what are our preferences, what are our attachments. Sometimes people call it attachments, but attachment is something that is too abstract, you know. It's important to look more closely into attachments as what is my like, my dislike, my preference, my want, my need about something or someone. Because in coaching, it's the same way. Do I have a preference for a certain model, a certain style in coaching? Well, that will already shape your presence or our presence. Do I need to be a great coach? Do I want to be a great coach? That's already going to shape how we can be present or not. So this is where it starts. And the second thing is the sensing bit. Everything, even our own needs. We are not aware how it's actually impacting the body in the first place. We are so fast jumping to the thinking and the feeling that we haven't learned how to, hey, wait a second, what am I sensing really? When I was in the room with Marcia as well, it takes silence to make sense of the sensing. You know, when Marcia was asking me the question, what is it that you love about your presence? First, I noticed that I'm taking a deep breath. Huh? What is it? Wait a second. Where is it in my body? Well, I started looking for it. Although it's a question that I know and I'm working with, when it's asked to me, it's kind of, wait a second. Where am I sensing it? But we need to do that because we know that whatever we think and feel and how we behave, it's always shaped by how we are taking in the world through our sensory organs. So it's not the brain that is working. It's not the brain that we need to understand. It's our connectedness with the body, because the body is keeping the score of everything. And that's actually how I came to do the piece of research on presence. It was a disruptive moment in my coaching career. It was a shameful moment because there was a beautiful client telling me, hey, Tünde, you're saying yes, but your body's moving backward. What's that? So I had a very articulate, intelligent client with me who was more present than I was. He noticed a lack of congruence between what I was saying and what the language that my body was speaking. And it was not conscious. It didn't happen consciously. It happened unconsciously. I wasn't even aware. I said, excuse me, what happened? So the body doesn't lie. The body will not, it exudes the energy. We are energy. Einstein said that already. So why are we not taking that seriously? That we are energy, and where is the energy lodged? Why don't we listen to the body, to the wisdom, the hidden intelligence that the body is holding? So that's actually why was the idea behind the experiment. And now I would like to show you something. Let's just see if I can share that. And if not, it doesn't matter. So basically the idea was be aware of your golden shadow. And it's a golden shadow because on one hand, it's positive. It's good to have likes and dislikes. But when it comes to presence, those things bind our energies. Now, let me ask you another challenging question here. And Jimmy, can you pull up the poll, please?
Certainly.
So the question is, do you prefer having slides or not? How would you vote? Jimmy, what did you put there? I want to see the little face. What's this? This is manipulative.
Well, strangely, it doesn't seem to have an effect on anyone's voting.
Oh, come on! You told me I was the boss. You see who is the boss? You are the boss. Holy works.
It looks like no slides is winning right now.
Okay, so whichever way, you know why I was creating this poll again? Just to sensitize ourselves to the fact that we always have preferences, even about having slides or not having slides. And that preference of having slides and having not slides will impact how you can be present here with me. If I now force slides on you, that would create discomfort, right? Because you don't like and you don't prefer having those to different degrees. Okay, some will say, yeah, okay, slides, but basically, when we are in coaching and we have a certain preference for how things ought to work and should run and should be, and we have expectations either towards ourselves or towards the outcome or towards anything, and we know that. But in the research, it was shown that coaches have expectations on themselves, expectations on the client, expectations on the moment, expectations. We are a ball of expectations, and we are not even aware of those. We have preferences because we are human beings. We were raised like, we were groomed like that, but they are shaping how we can be curious. It's shaping the openness of our sensory capacities to take in reality. And when we don't have enough sensory information, the brain kicks in, the mental work starts, because we need to create, the brain wants to create clarity. And then we start thinking. But then we are in the land of Mordor, I like saying from the Lord of the Rings, the land of where we are lost. Because it's not in the thoughts that we will find reality. It's taking in the stimuli in a way through our sensory capacities that's more likely to be real, the reality, than what the brain is creating to replace that lack of sensory information that we need in order to make sense of the world. So it was just to test and see and just remind you again how important it is to be aware of our preferences. So I'm not going into detail about that, just want to really sensitize you around preferences again. Okay, so I'm happy to move on and come actually to the what am I supposed to do with this, Jimmy? Slides. Would like to.
I tried to stop sharing it. Did it come up again?
Yeah.
Just, I think you just close it, the little X, maybe.
Yeah.
Or on your slides? I see your, oh, there we are.
Yeah. So I would like to come back to the title of today's session, which is Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. Who's the most present of them all? Do you know this thing? Does it sound familiar? It's the fairy tale Snow White,
Mm-hmm.
right? And after I've done the research, I mean, I'm having it here because I would like to share a piece of finding, and then also to do a little bit of an exercise around this. What we found is that the more advanced a coach is, the more likely that the coach will be defensive and reactive and less present. How does that piece of information land with you? The more advanced, the more trained, the more established, the more, I don't know, whichever word you would use for that, more mature, the more masterful, the more defensive, the less open the coach seems to be, the way we measured it. So the more those coaches were out of sync with the client.
That's surprising to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, what surprises you?
Well, I guess it's initially surprising, but I guess it's really not, because if I sit and think about it for a second, it kind of makes sense, because they have so many options now, because they know so much. There's so much going on that they have to be more judicious about how they believe, behave, think, act, because there's a lot more going on inside of their own heads. And because it's all crowded up with their own heads, it's hard to come really pure and innocent.
And there's also a lot more at stake.
Mm-hmm.
There's reputation at stake. There's a lot of shame in the room. That's not being addressed, or not being owned, or not honored, or not addressed. It doesn't get space to, the vulnerability bit is higher. So based on the results, I said, okay, we have in presence, we have a Snow White phenomenon. You know, when the queen is asking the mirror, who is the fairest of them all? And I translated into who's the most present of them all, because we're the queens, or the kings, sorry, Jimmy, the kings. We have James also, yeah. So we are
James and Alberto.
the king or the queen, and we are looking in and asking the mirror who's, because we want to hear that it's us with our masterfulness. But we are not. And it's not because I am saying it, it's because the motion energy analysis, the software was producing, and I was surprised too. I said, like, this is not possible. I don't believe this, that software can make out how asynchronous coach and client were working together. So really missing each other. When the coach was more present, the client was less present. So there was no matching of energies in the room. And the clients were also reporting lack of safety. Mm-hmm.
I just want to point this out. So Iris chatted, it's discouraging to hear that. So do we all need to practice? Do we need more practice in being present and sensing?
Since you're asking that question, how would you respond to that? So it somehow makes sense to you. In my introduction to the session today, I said that I will be challenging, and I will be taking you to places of discomfort probably. Mm-hmm. So the thing is that, yes, so if you sense that it's discouraging, well, it is discouraging, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. And I think that this is what I would like to bring into the space today, for us to be more humble. Be a bit more humble about like what we think, how present we are. Because the research showed, and we had 184 coach-client pairs in the process over 8 months. That was a massive piece of research, not just a survey where we asked people, well, what do you think you are present and what is presence for you? We were observing people and had objective ways of measuring as well as subjective ways of measuring, and multiple sources of information to collect and to make sense of. So yes, Iris, so I think if you feel that it's discouraging, it was discouraging to me as well. And that's why, yeah, working on it more and being a bit more, maybe also curious about, am I really present? Am I really? Am I really? Because just because we have got an MCC or I don't know what, or a PhD, that doesn't vouch any higher presence, or better, because we don't need higher. Yes, Shakti, right? You wanted to say something.
I wanted to ask, I think when you start asking how present you are, I think you stop being present almost by definition. I mean, I know you probably didn't mean, maybe I misunderstood you. I'm assuming you didn't mean you ask it. It's a state of being, right? Being present is a state of being where you're not in your mind. You're not in your own mental situation. You're with the client. You're really at level 2 and 3, right? So when you start asking yourself that question, I think you're not present anymore.
Well, I mean, I love your point also because, well, I don't know, because at least, I'm not sure, at least you are catching yourself somewhere. At least probably you are catching yourself in that mental process of, oh, hoppla, you know, like in German would say hoppla. So wait a second, what's happening here? At least you can disrupt yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but self-inquiry, this constant process of checking with the sensory organs. Okay, am I sensing? What am I really sensing? Am I in my thoughts too much? Am Am I feeling too much? Am I confusing feelings with thoughts? How many times we coaches know that there is a difference between thinking and feeling, and how many times we confuse those things, let alone the sensing. I know that. It takes time. It takes stillness in the self. And do we take that stillness when we are working with the clients, when there is so much pressure going on, especially when we work as executive coaches? There's a whole organization in the room. So whole pressures, whole expectations. How do we hold those pressures in the body? Because I was holding that pressure in my body. I was holding a certain pressure in my body. That's why my client spotted my body was moving backward, because I was meaning to be there for the client, but my body was saying, no, lady, you're carrying too much pressure from the organization. And I had never addressed that with the organization, because I remember that when I was hired as a coach for the client, the CEO had told me, you better make this one work, because he had a very specific expectation for the client. He wanted the client to become a board member as the only female person among male colleagues, and he wanted that to be a success. And I just took it for granted when he had said, you better make this one work. I didn't question that. I didn't say, oh, wait a second, that's pressure. Wow, that's like, I wasn't present to that. I just, oh, sure, yes. We will do. I mean, I was talking about like contracting and blah, blah, that it's work, blah, blah, but I was not really present to the pressure that he was passing on to me. And then I was taking it into the coaching room, and the client picked it up, and there we were. And the body was actually showing it. It was speaking the truth. It was not my yes telling the truth, but my body was. So we are carrying all sorts of things around in our body. So that's why connecting, marrying ourselves more with what am I really seeing? What am I really hearing? I remember that when Marcia was asking me the question in the breakout room, so what are you present for? I said, I cannot hear. Well, Marcia, did I say that? I think I said, I cannot hear that question. It was so disturbing.
Yes, you said that.
So I said, because the first thing that I noticed was when she asked the question, I was like, I don't want to hear that. And it's very important to understand, okay, so my hearing capacity, I didn't want to hear it. So it was a stimulus that didn't want to land. Just to notice it, to be curious. What is going on here? Why don't I want to hear this question? Not just to jump to thinking and explaining it, what I want to be present for, and just to be still, because the body's always picking up stimuli, always. But we are not open to those because we have never learned that, really, not enough. Okay, so maybe we don't do the second poll, but basically what I wanted to do is come back to what I promised that I would do with you guys, is to address this mirror on the wall idea, the Snow White phenomenon, because it is sticking out in terms of findings through the research. And I thought that I wanted to share it with you. Let's move on to the second one, because now we can do an exercise again, which is also part of what I promised that we would do, is that presence empowers and disrupts at the same time. Now, the experiment that I invite you to is take a look at this fractal. I call it fractal, you may call it whatever you want to call it. Take a look at this pattern or set of patterns. Think of presence and notice through your sensory capacities, but really sensory capacities, not thinking, not feeling, not nothing. Don't tell me that it's beautiful, blah, 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 blah. No, connect with yourself, with the body, and see what is empowering about this set of patterns. And what is disruptive about this set of patterns? And then let's share and talk a bit. There's quite a lot of stillness here. Which is okay.
I like looking at it because I can feel the ridges of like what it feels like, and it in some places it looks embroidered, and in some places it looks sort of perforated, and it's very intriguing. I don't know if it has anything to do with empowerment or disruption, but I want to touch it and feel what it feels like, because it just looks very touchable.
Mm-hmm. So you're taking it in, the stimulus, through the tactile sensory organ. So tactile, it feels like touching it. Okay. Good. And now go back again. So that's there. So what feels like touching, and what is empowering about this, and what is not so empowering or disruptive about this? No.
Well, interestingly, it appears to be a black and white photo, like it's only grayscale. So empowering in that there is so much depth and I don't know, beauty and dispersion in just the variation of two colors. Disruptive probably in that it is a whole bunch of little individual dots or fractals and tiny pieces, and they somehow swirl together in some sort of it's really hard to put words to it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right?
There is no right or wrong.
I know.
Just notice what is happening, how difficult it is, right?
Yeah.
Presence is like that. I mean, I like using the fractal as a visualization of it for various reasons. Because fractals create patterns, similar patterns. Presence can be. So we talk about like presence is attunement, presence is cocooning, presence is active listening, presence is. So when we talk of qualities and characteristics of presence, the way we are meaning making around it has got patterns in it, right? But it has got a lot more depth, as you were saying, Jim. It's a lot more depth. And the patterns are not always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And in presence, it's similar. There's no such thing as one presence. Even if presence or moments of presence, or being connected with someone or feels like, oh yes, presence, but there's a difference. And notice that difference. Be curious about what is different and what is similar in how I was present today, or I was present that day. Because presence is like a fractal. So that's one reason why. So it has got a surface, but it has got a lot of depth. There's a lot of patterns in presence. We know the characteristics of presence. We have given those things names. But we found in the research that there's no such thing as one thing. And if we want to pin it down to one thing, what will happen is that we will lose our curiosity around presence and being present. And we will lose our spontaneous responsiveness. We always want to have our way of understanding presence. That's also what I'm addressing in the presentation, in the abstract to this session. That we all have our paradigms around presence. We all know what it is and should be and ought be, and we were trained what it can be. And we stop being curious. And that's why we are not present anymore. That's disrupting us. Yeah. So our paradigms around what we know about presence can empower us, but at the same time also disrupt us in terms of presence, because we stop being present and curious and spontaneously responsive. And that's what we found in the research as well. that coaches were not really spontaneous. There was always, what can I say now back? Now I need a powerful question. What is the next thing? So there's so many things, so much cognitive clutter and emotional clutter that seems to be in the way, even with masterful coaches. That there was no spontaneous responsiveness. And when there is no spontaneous responsiveness, the software could not create synchrony. So we are more reactive, actually, than we might want to acknowledge it. Because we are not dancing. We like calling presence or dancing in the moment. Yeah, we can call it dancing in the moment or whatever, as long as we want. But if we cannot really practice it and really understand what it is, when I was starting my research into presence, and I was looking into dancing in the moment and blah, 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 all sorts of concepts, I thought, and what is that? When I dance, what is that? Nobody could tell me what it is. Everybody had concepts, but what is it? Where does it start? What does it look like? How do I practice it? What do I do? Nobody could tell me really. Active listening, yes, do this. Okay, here, listen, yeah, good, okay. But what is that? How do I start? Where does it go? Only after the research did I see, oh God, okay, so it's very complex. And we also found that we can be too much present in terms of energy. We can be too much there. We can be too much. And mostly what we found is that coaches are too present when something is off track, when they do not feel that the process is running the way it ought to run. Then they start investing an effort, some effort, bigger effort into getting the thing back on track with the client. And then we can see more energy, more, but it's not synchronous with the client, with what the client needs. So presence it seems to be instrumentalized as a correctional mechanism, something to correct, to make up for something that is not running well. So it can be too much, so it can be disruptive. So how do we dose it? I am not the way I am here. I'm not always the way I am here today. There are moments when I am not this lively, although it's midnight here, past midnight. Yeah, sometimes I'm just not like this, because it depends. That's what I was addressing about relationality. And I'm not sure why I'm like this. Is it because your energy is lower, or I perceive it as lower? So I'm making up for it by being more lively and energetic here? Or are you also alive the way I feel alive? I don't know. I just know that I am very lively right now. But it could be a correctional mechanism to correct something in the space here. Or it can be because it's reciprocal. I don't know. Does it make sense to you guys?
Some of it does. I do want to share. There's a fair amount of chat in the chat, and so I did want to share some of these things. And so let me go back up. Hold on. So going back to the fractal image, when you asked everyone to look at it and what are they feeling or thinking or experiencing, Lillian says, I can't even look at this pattern. It makes me feel sick. Iris was also similar. She says, it seems unpleasant, a bit dizzying. Shakti says her heart is racing, focus and unfocus. This is both empowering and disrupting. Amelia says, it's full of movement. It comes and goes, a dance of patterns in different directions. Kim says, pulling down into it and racing to the top of it. It's disruptive to make a choice and empowering to make a choice. It hits the sixth sense like gravity. Misha says, and I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff out here, the more defined the shapes are bigger, the more empowering, and the less defined, it feels like a spiraling out and insignificant, and that's disturbing. And now we have a couple of questions. So Amelia says, Tünde, what's the relationship between presence and wisdom, if any? And I'll let you stew on that for a bit, and then I've got another question after that.
Haha. Well, my spontaneous responsiveness is, can you please tell me more about your question? Because I don't want to go spaces that and be disconnected from you. So because I could understand that question in different ways.
Amelia, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, thank you, Tünde. You said earlier, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. You said earlier that wisdom is in the body and the energy of the body. So I wonder if presence is also in the body, because that's where the memory is there a relationship between wisdom and presence?
Okay, now it makes sense to me. Thank you very, very much, Amelia. Yes, so basically that's the point, that the presence is lodged in the body. So it's not coming from a space of a cognitive space or an emotional space, really. It's really in the first place seems to be, okay? And again, I am repeating myself probably like the pattern here, and I hope that you're not getting dizzy. But it's, I'm holding this knowledge lightly. We are just on the cusp of understanding what it can be through this piece of research where we had software that could measure and we can rely on, because it's not my concoction, it's not my subjective way of meaning making. So far it's a yes. Yeah, so far it's a yes. So it seems to be really lodged in us. It's a visceral experience. It's not, and then we act. Yeah, but basically it's always the sequence: sensing, perceiving, feeling, thinking, and then acting. And acting comprises behaving in a certain way, asking a question, or doing something, either way. But it's this sequence. And if we, and the best way to practice it is by paying attention. Am I following this sequence? Sensing, perceiving, feeling, thinking, and acting, or am I jumping the gun?
And where is wisdom in this scale?
Anywhere in your 5 sensory capacities.
Okay.
And also what is happening is that we all have preferences when it comes to our sensory capacities, how we take in the world. With Marcia, we were talking about her preference was tactile, and I said mine was also. So the first thing, it touched me. So when something, I am also a tactile, but I'm also a very visual person. Yeah, you can see that. So, but other people, or you can be a combination of two. But either way, the wisdom, the quality of the presence lies in the balance. Some people have they don't smell. Smelling is not, it's not, how to say, it's not pronounced. It's not a pronounced, or it's not there yet. But notice it. What is my preferred way? I'm coming back to preference. My preferred way of sensing, because it can be my golden shadow. In that, it is limiting my capacity to take in reality. So the point is to hone all 5 sensory capacities. Because when you do, then your wisdom is there to take in the world with more reality, more likely to be real than made up in the brain through thoughts and feelings. Does it answer your question, Amelia?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Tünde, there was another question from Kim, and there's a few questions in here, so I'll tread lightly. She wants to know what exactly is being measured in energy in the data being gathered. Is it motion, tone, brain waves? What is the connection measured in the research?
Yeah, I think it's a valid question, because I didn't want to go into that space, but since there is interest, just briefly and as simply as possible, okay? What is measured is really the spontaneous responsiveness through the body. Because as I said earlier, we were not looking into the conversation, so we do not know what the method was that the coach was using, what style, we don't know. We just know that the motion energy analysis software, which was developed at Bern University in Switzerland, is, and was used already in psychotherapeutic research as well, so it's a validated software, was measuring the spontaneous responsiveness, which means it's not a mirroring, it's not a conscious way of, you know, if you smile at me, I also smile back. No, it's nothing is conscious. It's this, how does the body spontaneously emit a response, something that's coming really uncontrolled, unconsciously. So there's no consciousness in place, because that's what we trusted, because that's what I experienced in my coaching. There was something that my body was speaking a truth, was speaking a language that was totally contrary to what my mouth was emitting. So I was interested, can we measure something like this? And I found that software. It's called really MEA, Motion Energy Analysis. And it looks into the spontaneous responsiveness between two people. So basically what is measured is the movements on both sides. Very simply explained. I don't want to go into scientific jargon. So that the videotapes were really segmented into pixels and moments of 3 to 5 minutes of movements. They were matched together. And we also measured for pseudo synchrony. So we know that all the movements that were measured were real present moments, because we discarded the pseudo movements, because sometimes, you know, when somebody wanted to take a sip of water or something, well, is that a spontaneous responsiveness or not? So it was, the software can calculate and tease out pseudo synchrony. So we can reliably state that what we found is spontaneous responsiveness between two people that just works through how the two bodies are talking with each other. Beyond language.
Real quick question then is, was it measured in live body to body, or was it virtual sessions? And I'm done.
Yes. No, you can speak more, Kim. It's you're very welcome. Yes, it was, because the software currently can only measure when two people are physically present with each other. So online, there were a lot of coaches who wanted to participate in this research, but I could not invite them to do so because they were working with online clients, and we could not integrate those cases because the software is not there to measure that. I'm not sure why you're asking this question. Probably it has got a relevance. You have got something specific in mind.
Just literally just looking to understand the energy fields that are present between coach and client, and where we're going with all of this and being on cutting edge. So it's great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, what I'm finding now, because in my training that Marcia mentioned today, the Integrative Presence Program, I'm doing both. So I am now, it's not a scientific project, but it's just for myself, I would like to better understand, would the same thing, you know, that we measured in the physical setting, would that also work virtually? So in my training, I am splitting into virtual sessions and then into retreats. So same group would first experience, we would work on presence and do experiments and exercises online. And then we would go on a two-day retreat, work there together, and then we would take a look. What was the difference working virtually and being present with each other, and then being physically present with each other? So I'm experimenting with this because we don't know yet. I mean, there are a lot of opinions about what it can be, but I want to do my own, you know, my own experience and see what works really virtually, because there is a difference. Because we can't deny it. You're experiencing me here differently than you would if I were 5D. Okay, it's 2D. Yeah, it's yeah. Anyways, so we are on the cusp of understanding again. Yeah, it's a very fascinating field. Merits more attention, I think.
Amelia says, "Whoa, online dating may be an interesting place to measure that."
Online dating. Okay, no, I'm not selling. We're not selling this. Okay, this is just scientific. It's just for coaching. Yeah.
I love that idea, though.
Yeah, I don't. But okay, so that's my preference. So I'm holding it lightly. You're right. Maybe it might be a good idea to, I want to stay present to this. It would be a great to use it in many different arenas of life and areas of life. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, do we have some more questions, or can I, Jimmy, where am I time-wise? What else can I experiment with in this beautiful set?
Well, we have 11 minutes left. I don't have any other questions in here exactly. I think there's a lot to just, it's a really heavy, deep subject, and it's hard for my poor little brain to comprehend everything. And I'm enjoying it very much. But yeah, we've got about 10 minutes. If there are any other questions, then please bring them up, unless there's more slides and information you want to share with us in a few minutes.
You know, I wanted to also go into challenging paradigms. What I will do is I will share the slides with you, because it contains a definition of presence that we have created based on the research. And what I would really just love to point out is the four spheres of presence, just briefly, and then give space for questions and to check out with each other. And yeah, maybe there are some questions here. So, based on the definition, so it's all about spontaneity and authenticity, actually. But by authenticity, we don't mean that you always speak like that. You speak what is on the tip of your tongue or on the top of your head. This is not authenticity, not what we understand by authenticity. By authenticity, we understand that you call a spade a spade. You don't you do this, you don't do this. Yeah, we don't do this. You call a spade a spade. Be the author of each and every moment. Authenticity actually comes from the Greek language and means to be the author of who we are and what we do. So each and every single moment, our decision, how we are showing up in terms of real, this is how we are authentic. So it's not about always speaking your mind or saying what is on the tip of your tongue. So that's basically the spontaneous responsiveness, one aspect that seems to be so important. It's not attunement, it's not cocooning, it's not being focused on something. No, it's flexibility. It's really this flexibility and authentic, and sometimes it's vulnerability. Show up as who you are, and that's very, very difficult. Why? Because presence is not just about the coach. It's not just about us. We are very much dependent on the client's needs, what the client's preferences are, what their needs are, what they like, what they hate, what they prefer. It's a relational thing that will shape how we will be triggered. Our clients are constantly a stimulus for us in what they are saying and how they are showing up, and it will influence our needs. And when we try to exercise detachment, because we have to keep the distance, I think this is a myth. In my book, I'm calling it what would probably need is professional proximity. Stay professional, yeah, exercise a little bit of distance, but stay proximal, very close. Be open to the client's needs and how those needs are impacting you, and the resistance that those needs and likes and dislikes of the client are triggering in you. Be curious about those. Not like, oh, I'm detached, I don't go that place. But the clients want to see human beings, not robots. So that's why we found that presence is a big relational phenomenon and not a coach-specific phenomenon. That's why there is the I sphere of the coach, there's the we sphere, the relationship. But then what we also found that the coaches are bringing, or the entire coaching setting is bringing to the fore when it comes to presence, is that the social context of the client is in the room. The colors of the room, the spaciousness of a room, or the not spaciousness of the room, or the organizational pressures are in the room. And we also need to be curious about those, because they are also impacting our sensory capacities, the way it impacted me. And then there is something that I like calling the omnisphere. And that's our philosophy of life, how we think of life. What is a good life? What is ethical? What is not ethical? Our cultural backgrounds, our cultural diversities. There are clients I don't take on. I know that I can't handle the cultural background. I don't go to that space, to that place, because that would be not professional. Because we know that cultural differences matter. For example, it happened with a client in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, the coaches this is giving advice for them. For us, it's a no, you don't go to the place of advice. But for them, that's their cultural way of being with each other. And for them, that's what coaching is. Now, that's not compatible with how I am as a coach or what I think how coaching should be. So we need to make a choice. But we don't go to places that we cannot handle or try to convince the client that we're not going to give them advice because coaching is something different. So philosophies of life, cultural differences also always impact as a stimulus our presence. So, and I wanted to just highlight and frame it as such, as a takeaway or giveaway, if you will. And now I'm open to questions.
There was one question. Did the test, was that through functional MRI? Is that how that was recorded or picked up?
Sorry, I was not present to that question because something in the slides caught my eye. Sorry. Would you mind repeating the question again, Jimmy? Sorry.
Absolutely. So the question was, in the studies, in the testing, was it measured through functional MRI? Or what was the method of capturing the data per se?
Video-based data, so it's not functional MRI. Look it up in the technical description of the published articles. It's not functional MRI because we don't need that for that.
So it's through video, and does that mean that it was we used humans to interpret the video, or did an algorithm do it?
Algorithms did it.
Okay.
Validated algorithms did it, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm waiting. I'm looking to see if any other questions.
You guys this much. Come on.
I've got one.
James has a question.
Yeah, so I was thinking about what do you have triggers, Tünde, around sometimes when you lose? You say what triggers you to make sure you're present?
What triggers me to make sure that I'm present? Whoa, that's a question. Is it because it's this late that I don't get this question, James? Or
that's why I can't work it out myself. It's too late.
Can you reformulate the question for me, please? Something in that question doesn't ring a bell, it doesn't resonate, yeah?
Yeah. Where I'm coming from is I was thinking, how can I, when I'm in a conversation, how can I check myself without being too analytical and thinking about where I am? Is there something I can use as a trigger to say, bring yourself back into the room sort of thing? Does that make sense now?
Yes, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, I can be now very coachy with you, yeah, and I can give you back the question, but actually, you know what, look, just connect with your sensory capacities. When it's not a sense, it's not something that you see, it's not something that you hear, it's not something that touched you, it's not something that you smell or taste, it's something else. So go back to the sensing. Then you're not present. If you're just jumping, you're feeling too fast or thinking too fast or interpreting too fast, then you know. So if you cannot connect it back to either of the five senses, then something else is going on, but not present. Somebody has raised a hand. You're saying, but I'm not sure. What does that mean, James?
I'm thinking how easy it is to lose yourself in those thoughts.
And why is that question important for you?
To make sure that...
let go of making sure. You see, you're already in the land of Mordor. You want clarity. And the minute you want to see clarity, you are not connected with yourself. Because the logic is, if you want logic, I'll give you logic. So we we seek clarity when we don't have enough sensory information. So you are seeking clarity now, something is not true, you want to make it easier because you are not having enough sensory capacity, you are not yet connected. That's my hypothesis about you. Okay. Not connected yet, just sense. And any minute where you want clarity, you are already what I call the cartographer, but I don't want to talk about that concept. So you are not present because you want too much clarity. Why? What for? Come on, connect. What are you sensing?
It does make sense.
When you see that you want to be too analytical, you are not present. You're too much in the cognitive space.
It's relaxing into it, I think, isn't it?
I'm not answering that for you, huh?
No, that's me. That's me. That's where my brain's at. That wasn't a question. I was thinking out loud.
Okay, cool. Somebody else?
Well, Tünde, I just want to say quickly more a comment that I really appreciate you sharing tonight with us, because, and don't, just in case, don't mistake our silence for non-interest. I think you've put us in a state that really has our minds percolating. And this is definitely one of those intellectual conversations going on where you're sharing with us a deeper wisdom, and just the concept on an intellectual level to say wisdom is in the body. It's huge. It's huge. And at least huge for me, because I've seen it played out by just having an experiment that I was advised to do with making the decision earlier in the year between two professionals that I was considering to hire. And I did the body experiment. And one, the person that I insisted to go along with in my mind my body was telling me something totally different. Guess what I did? I didn't listen to the body. I eventually ended up firing that person.
Wow.
After just a couple of repeated times, just breaking my value system to the point that I was so agitated in myself. I felt like all my cells were just going like this in me. And that's pretty hard to do for me. And so to really hear you drill down on this presence, this really tapping into this wisdom in the body, it's on the level that you're sharing with us, it's kind of like a game changer. And I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Risha. So it's so that's why I was sensing this. I thought, like, there is stillness, and I am talking much. I'm bringing in this energy. So what is this? It's either there's something going on, and I didn't know. So now you shared something that, okay, so makes sense, but you can't talk on behalf of everybody, yeah? So you can talk on behalf of yourself, but it does make sense to me that, so can you see this disruption in the presence? So it can be too much also, but I'm sure, and I'm coming back to what Kim was also saying, it's a difference when we are 2D or 5D with each other. Because if I had you around here with me here, would we have space? Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm sure that I could take in what is happening, and probably my energy would be lower because I could sense you better. So thank you for sharing, because it makes sense now to me, of course. And of course,
I'm sorry, I just added we were drawing from you. And that's why you kept coming bigger to us.
Yes. No, it's okay. But just notice what is happening. It's always in the room. Yeah. Energy's in the room, and just be curious around differences, similarities. What's happening? And then you will know, because we are coaches. So we will find out. Thank you very, very much. Now it makes sense.
Thank you, Tünde. Does anyone, I know we ran over time, but if anybody has a we really probably should let Tünde go to sleep by now because it's probably like 1 o'clock now.
No, you should not, because I love being here.
Today's on a high right now.
Yeah, she is.
I can't go to bed now.
Exactly.
There were so many things that ran through my head today. There were so many times I wanted to raise my hand and say, "Oh my gosh, I have a question," and it took a lot to hold it down. But I'm glad I did because I loved all the questions everybody asked, and it was really, really fascinating. I see Marcia has her finger up, so she wants to ask or say something.
Before we go, there is a question here from Lillian in the chat that I think it's my question as well. Do you name this intuition? So is that intuition?
I have seen that question, and thank you very much for reminding me of this. Guys, stop sticking with words. Go back and connect with your body and forget what it's called. Okay? We are too much work. Words don't matter. Remember my client. What clients are looking out for and we need to look out for is what's happening. It's not the words. And this is really like a misfortune in coaching also. Like we focus too much on words. And I know that words make worlds and blah, blah, blah. Good. Okay. For presence, this is not really helpful because then we end up in debates about what presence should be when actually presence is an experience. Hope that answers the question.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you, Marcia, for bringing that up. I saw that in there too. That's great. All right, I am going to let everyone go. Thank you, Tünde, so much. I did put in the chat, so there was a link in there for the survey, but more importantly, there's a link in there for the documentary. So please go take a look at it. Click on the link. Make a donation. It's for a great cause, Mama organization, doing a lot of amazing coaching work in Kenya for people that really, really need it. So thank you so much, Tünde, for bringing that to the world, not just this amazing presentation, but that documentary and all the great work you're doing there in Africa. So thank you very, very much for that.